Greetings, brothers and sisters. Yeah, this is a real person. This is a real picture. Unphotoshopped, undoctored. This is Dana Bash, the CNN political analyst and host of a show, Dana Bash Show or whatever it's called. Dana Bash is how she pronounces her name. So today's Wednesday, January 17th. And yesterday on Tuesday, they were covering the Iowa caucuses. And I tuned in while I was eating breakfast to see what was up. And this happened, and I couldn't believe it. And I didn't have time to deal with it then. So I just recorded it. I hit the record button. I kind of forgot about it. And I saw it last night, and I went to look at it again, and it was even worse. And so let me just show you the clip here.
Gallagher, where I don't think it's snowing. Governor DeSantis flew directly there from Iowa this morning. CNN's Diane Gallagher is joining us. You were at that event. What was Governor DeSantis' message today, Diane?
It should have been beware of ghouls because, I mean, she's putting the G into ghoul here. And this is with, no matter how much makeup they spackle on these ghouls and all the lighting they use and even filters, they can't, they can't hide the truth, right? I mean, this is brutal, absolutely brutal. I think a witch would be a more appropriate, name for this. Like one of those witches that's, just a day away from sharpening her teeth into a point. And I mean, it's just really bad. The lines around her eyes and everything about it. And I mean, no matter what they do to these ghouls, spackling on makeup or plastic surgery, they can't hide their true inner condition. This is going to be an epic video, and I started it last night with a voiceover about a really bad comment, remedial comment. And I did a voiceover, I don't know, maybe it's like 20 minutes, 25 minutes on that. And that's the introduction. I got other stuff to get to, but then I thought of some more things to say about it. And, to me, this is going to be a profound video. One of the ones that I think is, one of the better videos. I don't know what you'll think, but for me, it's a big one. But I want to start this here. I want to start here with inner condition. I had a couple of jobs. One was when I was a clinician, counselor. I have a master's degree in counseling. And I had to do psychological assessments. And the other is working as a preceptor in the Sagemark system, where I had to read people's spiritual conditions. So I had a couple of jobs where I had to look into the internal world in different ways of people. And, I don't love it. I mean, it's unpleasant. And when you do it right, you can feel a person's inner condition, what it's like to be them. And more often than not, it doesn't feel that great. Like whatever it feels like to be me, wake up and be me inside, whatever I am inside. And, I used to be worse in terms of, I don't know, angry or depressed or, whatever negativity was in me, right? But over the years with cleaning and things like that, I, don't feel pretty much anything like in terms of negativity. Like I don't feel the things I used to feel, negativity in terms of anger and hate and all these things. And when I do feel them, it's quite a shock to my system, but I used to feel that way all the time. And I attribute that to the cleaning, method in the system, the Sagemark system, and things I went through personally, the work I've done personally, right? But even back then, in those days, when I was not feeling great inside, and I would tune into some of these other people and the way they felt, I was oftentimes was just shocked. Once in a while, you'd find somebody who was like saintly, and you could feel that the inner bliss that those people have, people who are spiritually clean and whatever it is, psychologically pure or whatever. But I did this work, and it's difficult to figure out what people are feeling on the inside based in the way they present themselves, right? The way that they, present themselves to the outside world. Because people mask up and they put out a show. They put out something, I talk about this in my book The Choice, the villain character, the Adrian character, who, he had this game he played as a kid, just like everybody else, because he knew that what was inside of him would be horrific to other people to see. And there are people like that, are conscious of that their inner world, that they're monsters inside, and they get reflected back. People get freaked out when they reveal their true inner selves, and so they create a persona. But everyone does this to some extent, and you see it on social media. You see it in the way people focus on their external sides, right? Trying to look better. And again, the makeup industry and all these things to try to mask what's inside of them. They don't want people to see what's inside of them, right? And this is both good and bad. People are scared of the potential saint inside of them and the potential demon that's inside of them. People have both, in their potential. They could become a demon, they could become a saint, right? They have all these things inside of them. And they're terrified of both of them, and usually one more than the other. And oftentimes in life, you don't see, you get glimpses of what people really are like on the inside. I used to give this example of, I think I've given this example before. I worked in this Italian restaurant. It was a really dark place. My dad was a guidance counselor in Hartford school system. And these two brothers, Italian brothers, had gone through that school, and my dad was their guidance counselor. But they were, to me now, old. They were like 70. They were, old guys. And they owned this famous restaurant in the south side of Hartford, where there used to be a lot of Italians. I'm sure that's probably not the case anymore. And there were a lot of kind of older women waitresses. You worked as a team. We did we made tableside food like Caesar salads, and there was a drink we made where we would, it was a flaming drink that we'd set fire to this orange liqueur, and we put cloves and orange on an orange peel. Like we'd peel the orange so that it was long, it was like 1.5 feet long, and we'd run flaming alcohol over it, like it was like a tableside show kind of thing. So it was an interesting job, and it was a really weird place. All the people were negative and gossipy that worked at the restaurant. But there was this one bartender who was the epitome of gruff. He was just just hardened. I think he probably fought in World War II, and just he would bark, and everything about him was like off-putting and kind of rough and grumpy. And one of the waitresses showed up with a little angel, like a little angel pin. She was Christian, and he was talking to her about getting those pins for all the waitresses. And like I saw him, he was all excited about for Christmas. And she went and got it with him, and I saw a sweet side to him, right? Which I normally wouldn't have seen or looked for. But there was like a softness in him. He was all excited like a little kid to be giving out these little angel pins. So it was like he was hiding this part of his personality, but it emerged, right? Once in a while you see that with people. My brother, when he had some, lots of some issues in terms of, he had some phobias. He had agoraphobia, had this fear of leaving the house. And, he blamed some of that on his marriage. And he ended up leaving my sister-in-law, his wife, for the mother of his 3 boys, for this blonde woman, which is kind of important to the story. On my middle nephew's birthday. And I was away. I was, this was in Connecticut, and I believe, I'm not sure where I was. I think I was in maybe the Virgin Islands at the time. And I came back, and it was like a big deal. It shattered their family. And they were like he was like a second father to me. My brother was 17 years older than me, and I went and lived with him for a while. And so, his family was like my second family, right? And then, I was pretty close to them and the kids, and spent a lot of time with them and my, sister-in-law. And, I was kind of shocked by it, as was everyone else. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. Like, he has his story or whatever. But my nephews were really mad at him, and his ex-wife was furious. And, I was the only one from his family, my brother's family, my family, to reach out to her and, talk to her and come over. And, she was just mad all the time. I mean, just, she was furious about it because she had put up with so much for over the years, and my brother is no treat, and all these things. And this woman he was with was a nightmare. Like, she was just crazy. She was like, she was certifiably crazy. This is before I was, went and got my, I had already taken some psychology classes in my second attempt at college, both my first attempt and second attempt at college. And so I was, I had the, gift of being able to read people, but this was no, everybody knew she was crazy, right? And they would have these fights. I ended up living with my girlfriend in these apartments in Hartford, and my brother and his girlfriend ended up taking the apartment downstairs from us. And there was drama like all the time, and she was just nuts. And she did these weird abstract paintings, and one of them was supposed to represent her and him, and it was a weird painting, like weird. And they got into a fight, and I came downstairs, I was on my way to work or something, and I stopped by, and he was all kind of freaked out, and he was like, "Look at this." And she had carved the painting up of their relationship, and the image that was supposed to be him was sliced up with a knife. And he was constantly, bashing her to me, like saying things that the only real answer would be, you got to leave her, right? You got to break up. She's a nightmare. Like, and everyone kind of knew it, but he just wouldn't do it, right? There's people who will bitch about their spouse to you or their significant other. And when they tell you things, they're things that the only answer is leaving them, right? And it makes it uncomfortable for you because you'll say something like, you got to leave them. And then you'll see them, and you don't know whether the person told their spouse what you said about them, right? Just like that kind of thing. And so they kind of put you in the middle or whatever, and then they make up, and it's like they're happy in love again. And you've been labeled as the other person thinks you're out to break up their relationship, and everything they're saying, it's like the appropriate response is, oh, you got to end this thing. Like, no one in the right mind would say you should continue this relationship, right? Because it's completely effed up. But then they get back together, and then you're out there, like so. And I went through this with my ex, who was just really nuts, and the behavior she was exhibiting, right, where every time we had an argument, I had to hide the knives because she would threaten suicide and threaten she would cut herself or whatever it was, right? Just I've talked about this extensively in the Journey series, but it was a nightmare, and I knew I couldn't talk about it because I couldn't leave. I was trapped because of the kids and the situation. I knew I just couldn't leave. It wasn't like there was no way out for me, and it sucked, but it was what it was. So I didn't tell people about it because there was only one reasonable response to it. My brother used to say this about when he was in the Vietnam War, that he would not, write my mom. My mom would write letters like, "Oh, the refrigerator's on the fritz," and these like mundane problems, and his friends were getting blown up, and things like that. And so he would write letters back about how he wouldn't tell her what was going on and what his life was like in Vietnam because people won't understand, right? And so if you're ready to leave the relationship, it sucks. The other person's crazy. You know what you have to do. And if you can't do it, then, you just keep it to yourself, right? Because whatever. But anyways, years later, he started doing the Sajmark practice, after I did, the meditation. And he started to focus on the internal world, which is part of the practice, where you're looking inside and seeing what you are inside. And he came over, towards the end of the relationship with this woman, and he showed me a picture of her. And she couldn't do the meditation. Like, she tried to do the sittings, but she just couldn't look inside. She was too crazy to sit there and meditate. Like, some people just can't meditate because when they close their eyes, it's chaos, right? And he showed me this picture of her, and it would caught her like in a, how people fake smile or they do whatever in pictures. But it caught a genuine moment where she looks like a scared little girl, like she looked terrified. And just, and he said to me, this is her inner condition, right? And you see this, I'll be running pictures of things. I have the ability, when I hit pause, to get a good glimpse of people's inner conditions. Like, I just have this weird, it's not something I do intentionally. Occasionally I do it intentionally if I see something, and I'll go back and grab a screenshot. But In the case of this Dana Bash one, it just, it was there on the screen. And I paused, I paused it. Being able to see somebody's internal world, right? And so I'll have some pictures. I don't know how many of I have saved or where they are, but I know I have some. I think of, well, anyway, you'll see them with Jamie Lee Curtis and people. But I've done this, so much in my videos. People comment on it, where I'll pause it. I'll pause a YouTube video, and right where I pause it, you'll be able to see somebody's internal condition, what they are in the insides, what they're hiding from everybody else. And that's the case here with Dana Bash. But anyways, let's get into the introduction, and I want to cover this more. This is going to come back up as I do another voiceover this morning. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I want to start off with a comment. Today's Tuesday, January 16th. I'm going to make this video tomorrow on Wednesday, and it will be up on the YouTube channel on Thursday. And so I just ate dinner, and I usually don't make content during the night anymore. I used to do it a lot more before. But now I just, I'm usually done with my day by the end of the day, unless I'm uploading videos. Sometimes I'll answer some comments or something, but usually not. I got an epic comment and useful information about lemons and the dentist and teeth that I'll share with people because I went to the dentist. But first, the comment. So somebody said to me on my other channel, "You are a fraud." And this is a comment I probably received 200 times. I don't even know how many times somebody said those exact words. Maybe not by itself, but it's been said like that before. It's just a comment, a throwaway comment. These things don't bother me, and I ban the person and move on. I got a lot of comments I answer. Very seldom do I have an emotional reaction to a comment, or even a mental one. But there's sometimes I just think about things, right? How I think about things. And I thought about that, and I'm like, what a lame comment. Because a person's goal is to hurt my feelings, right? May undermine my confidence, make me feel bad about myself. In this case, me, but it could be anybody, right? When you comment to somebody and you're insulting them, what you're trying to do is make them feel bad, right? Make them unhappy, make them miserable, make them feel bad about themselves, make them angry. I mean, that's what's happening. You have negative energy in yourself. You dislike something somebody said, you feel, bad about yourself already, or whatever it is, right? Whatever your reason for doing this behavior, your goal is to make the other person feel bad, which is a low behavior, right? And it's something that's very prevalent on the internet. I don't do that. People say, well, you make fun of people all the time, but I have the common courtesy to do it behind their back in public, right? Like my goal is not to have the people who I talk about here watch my videos, right? People have. Dodgy watched some of my videos, and I guess, I don't know if he had the ability to understand them. And then there's been other people who have watched my videos, and, people who have, certainly the people who leave the comments have engaged in a behavior, an observational behavior. They're observing me and making negative comments, and that opens a door for me to do the same to them. But the thing is, I'm not interested in telling people that they suck, because working as a counselor and a therapist and being a parent and having to do that in my own life, it sucks when you have to do it. When somebody sucks pretty bad and it's either hurting you or it's going to hurt them or it's, it's doing damage, whatever. It's some kind of thing that they need brought to their attention. And you have to have one of those talks where you're basically telling someone else they suck. It's no fun, right? Because they won't accept it. If it was that easy, then I would have stayed in counseling and I would just tell people what was wrong with them and what they have to do to fix it. And they would just accept it, but they never do. People don't want to change, and therefore they don't want to hear things that if they could believe them about themselves would make them want to change, right? And so I have no interest in telling people that they suck. And when you do tell someone they suck, of course they're defensive, but then they ask you for more information. They ask you for receipts and evidence that they suck. And then you have to tell them all the things that they've done, and it becomes like a laundry list. And they're like, well, why have you felt about this? Why have you felt this way for so long and not said anything? And then you have to explain, because you knew they would react like this. And so it's just not a fun behavior. I only do it when I have to, like it's my duty to do it. Other than that, I'm not interested in doing it. I'm certainly not interested in doing it just to lash out and hurt the other person. When I was younger, I said mean things to people when I felt bad, and now I realize that just made me feel worse. But I abstain from that behavior. But I cover it here all the time because people want to comment and say something negative to somebody for whatever butthurt reason, whatever their reason. And whatever their reason is, it's selfish and it's, unproductive. But if you're going to engage in this behavior, you should at least be right. When I talk about people, I have good observational abilities. And if they did listen to what I was saying, it's an opportunity for them to hear something from someone who doesn't know them and doesn't really care about them and change that behavior, right? If somebody's looking to improve themselves, it would be a gift for them. Because when you're right about something, at least you give the opportunity to somebody to reflect on it and change. But if you just start throwing insults that are based in your own distorted reality and perception and you suck at it, well, that's like a double crime because you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But if you're going to do it, at least be right. At least have the ability to perceive others and understand the English language and understand social cues and social constructs. And this person fails on all levels because they call me a fraud. Now, the general understanding of being a fraud, there's the wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain, which obviously I'm not engaging in that behavior. And so the second one, a person or thing intended to deceive others, typically by unjustifiably claiming or being credited with accomplishments or qualities. Now, I'm not boasting my accomplishments or qualities. I don't do that. I'm not telling you how great I am and all these accomplishments I have. I'm pretty open and honest about being an underachiever and all the other things, being lazy and all the other, I'm aware of my character faults and things like this. And I talk about them, and not in a self-deprecating way, not in a, in a way where I'm beating myself up, but just, being honest with myself. And I just share that with other people. Generally, when people call someone a fraud, what they're saying is you're pretending to be something you're not. So what am I pretending to be, right? What am I pretending to be that I'm really not, that I'm fraudulent? Like, what do you think I'm pretending to be? I'm not pretending to be anything. I'm not pretending to be a savior or a knower or any of these things. I'm somebody who tells the truth, right? That's all it is. And the truth that as I understand it. I could be wrong, but at least it's what I understand to be the truth, right? And so the person wrote this, I talked about how my wife and I wanted to watch Miami Dolphins football game against the, the Kansas City Chiefs. And Peacock ran a streaming service, and I went into the whole thing and how dysfunctional it was and how they made you watch commercials even though you're paying for the streaming service, which really sucks and is, it's kind of like a crime. It's one of those things you shouldn't do as a streaming service. It's just bad business and it's incompetent. So I made a short video on my other channel, the Pock Laughs Out channel. All my channels are linked in the description box because people are telling me they don't know where to find them. And I'm like, well, did you look in the description box? That's where those things would be. And that's where they are, right? So, again, this person didn't embellish and didn't explain their view that I was a fraud. They didn't bless us with their excellent ability to read other people and understand their hypocrisy, right? So I guess the person was saying because I watch football and I know football to be, kind of rigged and whatever else goes on, all these things with sports. And, I talk about the beastly system that I watch television or I engage with the system, I'm somehow a fraud, right? In this person's mind. But I would be a fraud if I told you how bad everything was and pretended not to watch football and secretly did it. That would make me a fraud. That would make me a fraud if I lied to you about watching TV or watching football and I misrepresented something just to look cool to all you hardcore truthers out there. But I'm pretty upfront with, my understanding of the system and that it's going to collapse someday. And, I gave up watching TV multiple times in my life and because it wasn't making me feel good. I didn't like it. It was having a negative effect. But as I've gotten older, I enjoy it a lot more, me and my wife watching things together and, after whatever, a hard day's work or whatever we're doing. And I just don't have the energy to do things like I used to when I was younger, and TV's fine. And if it disappeared, if we didn't have television, electricity, and all these things, then I would do something else. But right now, that's what I do. And, it's not fraudulent because I've said over and over again, the system can't be saved, and I know what it is. The only difference is I know more about all the, the ways they're trying to manipulate us and all the, the lies and deceptions that are there, all the symbolism, all these things, which my wife and I comment on. When I grew up, I never fit in and never understood and never bought into the American dream and these things. And I struggled. I enjoyed these things at times, but other times I just would look around and say, why are we doing this, right? I had friends in college, guys who played on my YMCA basketball team, people I played sports with. There was a group of guys who, grew up together in a neighborhood, and one of them was like a small level bookie. He took gambling bets, and my other friends bet with him. And he was, kind of a loser, but he was good at money and finances. And he hit a gold mine with my loser friends who always seemed to bet against the winning teams. And I hung out with them a couple of times on Sunday, and they were watching 3 football games or whatever it was, right? And I was like, man, this is what you guys do? And I couldn't do it. Like after 1 football game, I was done. I wanted to do something. I had a lot of physical energy. I wanted to, I was playing sports pretty much every day, and I just couldn't imagine just sitting there for 9 hours watching football, right? And there have been times in my life where I lost complete interest in sports, but now, it's something familiar. And as the system collapses around us, there are things that I am interested in, things that I grew up with that are familiar to me in terms of my, different parts of my life. It's almost like a past life when I was young and, when I did these things. Whether it's rigged or not, whatever it is, it's something that, it just sits there. It's kind of mindless. And, I do other things, and my wife and I watch it, and I fast forward to parts that are interesting, and, it is whatever it is. I will still watch basketball fairly regularly, but the same way. Like I might watch a 2-hour basketball game in 50 minutes and fast through different parts and, just watch the parts I want to see or whatever. If it's a blowout, I can just, go do something else or watch something else or whatever. But none of this makes me a fraud. If this is what this person was specifically accusing me of, right, and doing it in a way that's like really stupid and just, not thoughtful, because I'm not selling you anything and I'm not pretending to be anything. I'm not pretending to be Joe Truther and Joe Anti-Establishment and I'm going to save the world and, this is an information war and we got to go defeat the deep state. I'm not one of those people. I've evolved past all that, and I've accepted the boop in reality that the system's going to collapse and it should collapse, and you might as well enjoy what's here because there are good things about the system, and when the system collapses, those things are gone. But if you're one of these truthers who say, I'm just too cool to watch TV or do, all right, whatever. Yeah, you're great. You're wonderful. Like that's to me is fraudulent. You're part of the beast. There are people who have said, well, you're making money, you're running ads on your channel, you're making money off your videos. Yeah, why shouldn't I be? I need money to live, and do you think I should just give away my knowledge and my information and whatever entertainment, my stories and my life experience for free and then work another full-time job to support my YouTube channel? I mean, it's just stupid, right? Like it's, I dislike holier than thou purists in any form. And those people usually end up doing the thing that they say they hate and indulge in it. And that happens all the time with pastors and preachers and, feminists and, right, they're all anti this and anti that, and they're all really militant about it. Truthers who are like that. Oh, this all sucks. This is all this is part of the elite's plan, and that's all deep state stuff. And then they're down at McDonald's wolfing down Big Macs and chicken McNuggets, right? It's people who are all, oh, this is, all horrible, and then they're, lying about it. I'm not trying to be cool or creating some false perception. So saying I'm a fraud, I would have to, I would have to be trying to sell you something about how I'm this way or that way or all these things, and I'm not doing that. Like I don't have this idea that I'm some hero or I'm some great person or whatever it is. I never said that. I never implied that. And I've, told you just the opposite, especially the people who've wanted to call me master, and said that I was a saint or a spiritual master. And I was like, well, I'm not. And they were like, no, that's what the master would say. I'm like, yeah, but that's not that's not why I'm saying it. I'm not a saint or a master, right? I mean, I could be. Anybody, I guess, has the potential to do that. And I could be. I had the talent for it and I had the insight in it. But I just don't care about people and I'm not that committed to any of you or any of the, society or even God for that matter. I know what it takes to be a saint. And I just don't really have that ability to be one-sided and purely focused on service to divinity. I work for God to whatever extent that means, and it's there. It's just could be more, right? And to be a high-level spiritual person, to be a saint or a master or whatever it is, I would have to be more committed, and I'd have to spend more of my time and energy doing those things, and less time doing the other things. And I'm clear about that to myself and to other people. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. So it's just a stupid thing to say, right? And like I said, the behavior itself is a negative behavior. It says a lot about people who really want to wreck somebody else's day. They want to take somebody down with them, and that's I mean, I don't know how much of the internet is that, but it's a big part of the internet. We all see it, right? But like I said, at least if you're going to do that, be right, like be accurate. I mean, if you're going to spit venom at people, it should be truthful venom, right? It should be accurate venom. It just shouldn't be random. Oh, you're a fraud, right? Like just randomly spitting insults. It's like it's embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing if you suck at it. Like again, you can't say much for people who do that, but at least if you're right, you're insightful, you have some ability, you have some talent. But if you're doing something sucky and you suck at that thing, it's like you double suck, right? It's like you suck on one level because you're doing something that's sucky, but then you suck at that thing that's sucky, right? So like you double suck. And it's magnified. It's like it multiplies. It's not like double sucking. It's more like, sucking, quadruple sucking, right? It's like you're the square root of suck, right? Anyways, the dentist thing is I've been working hard to take care of my teeth because I've had some issues with them lately. I'm getting older. And, regrets if I had them would be I didn't put much interest and effort into it before. But I'm brushing my teeth a lot more during the day and doing it in a more effective way, flossing and using a water pick. And I've got this toothpaste that's good on tartar and things like this. It's called Progrosion or something like this. I found it on Amazon that I really like. And I went to the dentist and, my teeth were relatively clean. It didn't have a lot of plaque, which, I felt like, I went for a cleaning. But the dental assistant found I had a couple cavities. And I'm like, I just went a short time ago. How come this happened, right? She goes, you eat a lot of sugar? I'm like, no, I barely ever eat sugar. And like I was kind of bummed because I kind of felt like it was their fault because, how could you miss that? What's going on here? But then the dentist came in. He said, are you a lemon sucker? And I'm like, well, no, but I take lemon juice. One of my viewers wrote to me and said that there's this way of getting rid of your fatty liver. They sent me a video, and the video was taking a half a teaspoon of lemon juice and half a teaspoon of olive oil. And I take, my wife and I do this every morning, first thing in the morning. And it's been really effective. My liver's gotten a lot better, and, it's helped me with a variety of things. I think my health has improved. But apparently, as the dentist told me, if you take something like that, lemon juice like that, it erodes your enamel. And I was like, well, I wish I knew that part, And so that caused 2 cavities. And I said, well, what do I do? And he said, well, you rinse your mouth out with water, and then you wait a half hour and you can brush your teeth or not, but at least rinse the lemon juice off the enamel. I said, well, why to wait a half hour? He said, because the lemon juice will weaken your enamel and then it will harden again after a half hour. I don't like dentists particularly, but that kind of made sense. And, so now I know that, and, you guys all know it as well. You can do your own research. I'm not recommending anything, but if you're eating lemons like that, might want to, know that information. Anyways, here's the other part of the video. So yesterday, and I'll explain how this happened in a moment when I switch over to a voiceover, I got a lot of ads for spiritual, paid spiritual, whatever it is, gurus, financial spiritual gurus that are have a business. And this came up. This was an ad. How to be known, how to become known as a spiritual influencer. And they have this model-esque type person here. I'm not sure if this is the same person, but this is the person that ran that ad. This is an ad on Facebook. And it says, Conduit, founder of She Serves, business mentor to mystics, and she's a light worker. And she has a paid per service. So this idea here to be how to become known as a spiritual influencer isn't something that somebody should, isn't a goal that somebody should have. Okay, to start off with, this is the scammer from Sadhguru, this one of these fake for-profit gurus, right? And I have some old friends from the Sajmarg system, many of whom I never met and don't really know. But there was a guy there, an American guy, white American guy, who, non-Indian. And this guy made friends with me, and he used to be, I think, a preceptor in Sajmarg. He must have quit. And now he's pushing out Sadhguru. So this came up 2 days ago, maybe. And then there was another thing here, and it was a group of spiritual teachers. And I thought this was something that Heartfulness was doing. So I was covering it on my Journey series. And it was a Heart Mind Institute. And it is this extravaganza, all these different forms of meditation. And I believe it's something that's happening online. It's the kind of thing that Dodgy, Fraudgy, the fraudulent, I do Sajmarg meditation, and he became the fourth president and the, attempted master, that he, a failed master of the system. And he has been trying to combine these different things. He's been working with the TM guy and a bunch of the people here, Sharon Salzberg and Deepak Chopra, a bunch of people. And I joked, I sent this to somebody and said, Fraudgy, Dodgy, his friends are having parties without him, not inviting him to the party. But I, looked into this a little bit. And then the next day on Facebook, there were so many, these New Age meditative things that came up, including this one with this model saying, how to become a spiritual influencer. There are a lot of roles that people play in life where you can go after that position, whether it be I want to be, president, or I want to be a professional football player, or I want to be a scientist, or I want to be, a professional chef, or I want to be a mother, I want to be a father, I want to be, a leader in my community, I want to be something. There are goals that people have and dreams that people have, things that they aspire to. But then there are times those same things or other things where you get a role where you didn't think you were going to have that role, where you get offered a position and before you know it, you're CEO of the company, and you never really wanted that to happen. It just sort of unfolds that way, right? Based in your samskaric, your impressions, the things that you bring with you from previous existence, part of your soul's plan, part of your destiny. But it's okay to dream. It's okay to want to be something. It's okay to desire to be something. But no one should ever want to be a spiritual guru or a spiritual master. And so much so, the second master of the Sajmarg system, Babaji, said, if somebody has a thought, I want to be a spiritual master, on an egotistical level once in their life, it precludes them for the whole rest of their life from ever having that position. They should have that position. And we can see that now, those of us who know about Dodgy and Sajmarg, the Heartfulness debacle, and why that's the case, right? Because when you aspire to be a guru, it's an egotistical, way of looking at it as being like a king position, like a royal position, and you're looking at it how it will benefit you and how it will help you in a selfish way. How you can exploit other people, how you'll be treated, how you'll be put up on a pedestal, how you'll be treated like royalty, everyone will bow at your feet, these types of things. And if you want that, you shouldn't have it, right? This woman's page, she ran another ad with, I guess, a model. Like she's using these models and she's marketing to women, even though she's using these models as something that you're, it's a materialistic, Oprah Winfrey New Age position, right? where you aspire to be a guru. And so what happens is when people start focusing on their spiritual life, they start, looking for something on a spiritual, some kind of spiritual journey that they're going on. And they read philosophical teachings and they start understanding them. What happens to a lot of people start doing Saj Marg. And they want to share this stuff with other people. And then they start looking at themselves not as a student and a pupil and a disciple and in a position of learning. They want to become a teacher. Now they think they're ready to teach. And they think they've kind of made it, right? They've made it in some way. And now they can impart spiritual wisdom to other people. And usually they haven't done shit on the spiritual field. Like they're novices. They're not even really beginning yet. And they already want to teach. And you see this it's a very common occurrence. And now with the New Age gurus and, meditative and spiritual teachers, they can do that. They can become a teacher, but they haven't mastered anything, right? They're not masters of themselves. They haven't reached any high level. And they start, pretending to be a master, and they start acting like it, right? They'll speak to you in a certain tone of voice and, and almost like it's like subtly condescending, like, and they expect people to ask them questions and they'll sit there and pontificate. And, you see it even on, social media now where somebody will have people have this thing where they have live feeds and people ask them questions and they'll hold court. This happened to this guy, Isaac Cappy, who was a, mediocre actor and kind of a strange dude. But then he went truther and he would sit out there and, he'd field questions about Hollywood and things and he would just make stuff up and, aggrandize himself, right, holding court and, all these things. And so what they really aspire to be is some sort of a cult leader. A king is a cult leader and there's lots of cult leaders, whether it's celebrities or whatever it is, right? Where a singular person has this, it's viewed that they're special in some way. And they use this, this role that they're in, this perception that people have about them, and whatever reason people are fans of theirs. And, it's very prevalent now on social media. And it's a parasitic relationship where they use the people, their followers, to prop them up egotistically, to, boost their egos and also their bank accounts, right? And it can go as far as, a Jonestown type of situation, which most people think about as some sort of a cult, the David Koresh thing. People think about places like that. But then there are smaller levels where the damage isn't, death and, mass suicide or something, but it's, just a person taking advantage of other people's, false perception of them, right? And a real spiritual guru, a real saint, a real spiritual master is somebody who serves God. It's a service position. And it's a position you don't want to, you don't want to go for. You don't want to have a goal to achieve it. It's just given to you. And you have to accept the service aspect of it, right? And the service aspect is that you're working for God. And all these piece of crap people that God sends to you who are going to suck and they're going to stab you in the back or they're going to fail you in every possible way. They'll turn on you. They'll, even crucify you, in the case of Jesus. I mean, you have, the example of how the way people have treated saints and spiritual people over the centuries. And they're going to suck and they're going to fail and they're going to, be remedial and they're going to put everything on you and they're going to make you do all the work. And you have to guide them and, just in a one-sided type of way where you're not looking for anything in return. And all your interactions when you're with that person is to somehow connect them to God and help them move forward on their spiritual path, even though they're failing at their commitment. They're not following through on their, whatever they said they were going to do, whatever their responsibilities are. And you got to keep on showing up for them time and time again as they, they squander their opportunities and they just depress you and they frustrate you and all these things. And you have to ignore all that and, not hate them, which would be the way everyone else would feel about it. Like in a relationship like that, it's almost an abusive relationship and, something that you would leave, right? Something that anybody would say, why are you in a relationship with this person? They keep on failing you, right? Babaji, who was a second master of the Saj Marg system, said, what I'm doing for you is my business. What you're not doing for me is your business, right? You very seldom talked about this in this way. Charji, the third master system, in the Sajmarg system, the middle line of the prayer we say before we meditate is, I am yet but slaves of wishes, putting bar to my advancement, which is fairly clear that a person's desires and their egotistical pursuits and their distractions and their addictions and all these things are putting bar to their spiritual advancement. Their attachment to material life and all the petty little things and all the little pleasures and all the things that they're indulging in are putting bar to their soul's path, their soul's purpose, their spiritual advancement. And Charji once said in a joking way, you are yet but slaves of wishes, putting bar to my spiritual advancement, right? Which was funny, but also true and kind of sad that he had to spend his time propping up other people. And so it's a service position. You don't aspire to be a guru. And if you commit to doing this job, it is a thankless job. It's like being a mom, right? And to some extent being a good dad or being a good leader of any type, where you're not doing it for self-aggrandizement, you're not doing it for profit, you're not doing it for money, and it should never be done for money. Because you can't sell God for money. God's free. God's within people. And so God is either priceless, beyond, if you give somebody God, right, if you're able to connect somebody with God, then that should be something where the person should give you everything they own. They would never be able to repay you for that, right? Connecting someone to God with God, someone can't repay you for that. Whatever, you do for somebody that helps them find God, even if it's a negative thing, even if it's some negative thing that you've done to somebody, some crappy thing that the person does to somebody else that helps that person find God, you can't repay them for that, so it's got to be free. And the only way it works is when the person connects you to God, they're serving God and not you. That person has to look at they're serving God and not the people. That's the only way you can do this job as a spiritual master or guru. It's the only way you can function as a spiritual person, helping connect worthless people with something they, for the most part, don't deserve. We deserve it because God's inside of us. We deserve it because God is within everybody and everything, so it's our God-given right, our God-given privilege to be able to connect to God and have a relationship with God. But we certainly don't deserve, based on our behaviors and our attitudes and what we've done in our lives, that connection. So going back to this commenter calling me a fraud, of all the people that do this, being whatever this is, doing social media and things like this, is the joy that I get out of this is I like making these videos. Like I was looking forward to making this one when I thought about these things to say. I like doing the videos. I like, seeing something and then, making jokes about it. I just have this this thing I'm going to put at the end of this video. Trump talks about why he made Nikki Haley a UN ambassador, and it's just a fail. Another false guru guy. In fact, why don't I show you that here? And I can talk about that as being something. And then I'll get back to this thing in a moment here. Well, first let me complete this thought, and then I'll show you the Trump thing. And so, in the beginning, because of my, incompetence as a person and underachieving as a person, and the loss of confidence I had because of my ex-wife and her being just, a complete nightmare of a person, the success I started to have as a YouTube person, being able to support my family and be able to, have an audience and things, was, good for my self-esteem in the beginning. And getting likes, and, as my channel grew and things like this. It was like it was an ego thing. There was ego in it a lot more then. And, at some point it just didn't matter anymore. Like, it doesn't matter if I get 1 view or 1,000,000 views. Like, I don't feel anything. The comments, there are some wonderful comments where people say I've helped them, and that's great, but, I just don't, I'm like kind of numb to the whole thing because I've had millions of comments now and, good and bad, and I've had, years of doing this, and it isn't a big deal to me, right? Like, I don't have a desire to be a celebrity, and very seldom do I look over and see how many thumbs up I've gotten or what percentage of thumbs up to some thumbs down, or like sometimes I'll look at it just because I want to compare. Like if I say something negative about Trump, I'll see that I'll get less, a worse percentage of likes because of the Trump or something like that. But I look at it just as a, because it's kind of funny to me. But I don't, pay attention to that, right? I don't get external validation by any of these things, right? If I made more money, great. If I, had more viewers, great. It would be great. Like it would be positive. There should be growth in anything, is either going one way or the other. And so there has to be growth, right? But at this point, the joy I get is that, I get to stay at home and, I got my two dogs here and I'm looking out the window, snow on the ground, and I'm talking to myself basically into a microphone, and this is my job, and that's kind of cool. And I enjoy making these videos. That's what I get out of it. And I am, honest. I'm honest about, the way I view life, and I give you my honest perceptions and these things. And I'm not looking for anything in return. Like, I'm not looking for you to prop me up, make me feel good about myself and these things. I'm not looking at this as a way to, this is what people do. And most people on social media want to be seen as great, and, they want some, and it was there in the beginning and it disappeared, and it's never coming back. Like, I'm never going to, look at this as a way to bolster my, whatever it is, right? Like, I don't hear the laughter. I make a joke, and, I'm making a joke basically to myself, and I find it funny. And if you laugh or, you don't laugh, I don't know about it, right? It's not like I'm doing a live comedic performance and I'm being fed by the audience. These things I talk about, Madam Expiration Date, I don't need any of those things, right? I certainly don't need to be put into some guru-like situation where I'm a leader of something, where everyone's, propping me up and serving me. I don't even have that. Like, I like to do things for myself. Like, I don't like other people to do things for me. My family had a servant when my ex left when we were in India. We paid, $80 a month for someone to come in and clean the house, and a nice Indian woman, and cook us a meal every day, right? Most days a week. And it was like, and everyone had them there. And I never felt really comfortable with that, right? I feel, I'd rather do things myself. And if I can't do them, you pay for whatever you have to, like things you can't do. But I like to be pretty much self-sufficient, and, no one can be that way, but I don't, enjoy people serving me, right? Like, it's not something where some people like that. They want to have slaves. They want to have people, prop them up, and they want to have, all these people who want to buy their, like there's people who, in India, there was one guy who was so rich, he used to have people put on his shoes, right? Like those, they have dressers in the royal family, people who have a job of dressing. These people can't even dress themselves, right? And that just isn't, anything I'm interested in. I'm not a people person. Like, there are people who are wonderful. I've enjoyed people, just great people that I've met. And sometimes I'm in in a situation where I'm in a social setting or whatever. It could be like a concert or somewhere, in my life where I was around a lot of people, and it was magnified and it was made better by having more people. But for the most part, I never think, oh, I wish there were more people here. Like, I wish there was more people around. Like, around me in a situation. Oh, I wish this was more crowded. I wish this store was more crowded. I wish, I don't seek out more and more people as a, some people, love socialization. They love to see more people. They love to be part of a crowd. They love, the way that it feels to be a part of a large group. They want more and more people, want more and more friends, more and more social contacts, more and more, people who like their, whatever, their stuff on Facebook, whatever. That's great. But I'm not one of those people, right? And because of that, I can be more honest, right? Because of that, I can be more, I can be, like, I'm not worried about losing you. I don't have to pander to people, right? I don't have to, think about what other people want to hear me say and say it. I can just say what I believe. And if people don't like it, they don't like it, because I'm not, and that's a rare thing that you get here from me, right? And this, going back to this person calling me a fraud, it's the opposite of that, because I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not just so you'll like me, just so you'll, whatever it is, right? And it's one of the things you get here that you don't get many other places. Like, there's maybe other people like me on social media, but it's a rarity, right? Let's go to the Trump thing, and I'll talk more about that on the other side. So this is what I'm talking about, a cult leader and just a complete dumbass, right? So Donald Trump said this. It's just been the Iowa caucus. He won, Tuesday, and now he's Monday, and now he's in New Hampshire.
So what I want to do is I want to just tell you, it's very simple. We have to get out. We have to take back our country. We have a country that's in such bad shape. We have to take it back. Nikki Haley is a disaster. She worked for me for a long time. I mean, I know it very well. I actually put her there for a different reason. I shouldn't say this, but you had a lieutenant governor named Henry McMaster who was fantastic. I figured if I took her out of South Carolina governorship, put her someplace, any place, I put her someplace, then Henry McMaster, who was my friend and who's turned out to be a great governor in South Carolina, Henry McMaster would become the governor. So I moved her to the United Nations. And honestly,
What? So that's you're selling yourself as a good leader. So you took the governor Nikki Haley out of South Carolina, so that your friend could win governorship of that state, a state that's already a red state and a state that's doing fairly well compared to other states, whatever it is, right? And you put her in. I could have put her anywhere, so I made her the chief ambassador to the UN. Like he could have stuck her into any ambassadorship in some country if he wanted to do that, right? So he's saying that he just wanted to get rid of her. He hired her because she sucks. And he put her in as the ambassador to the UN, which is a big, important position. I mean, it's the most important ambassadorship position. It's one of the higher ranking positions that he could put her in, right? And he did that all because he wanted to game the race and rig the race. I mean, he talks about election rigging. He wanted to rig the election for his friend. I mean, this is everything that Trump, like if you heard this objectively as a Trump supporter, you would say, oh, I can't vote for this guy. He just told me what's inside of him, right? Going back to this idea, what's inside of a person. He's lying. This is not why he did it. It's only because she's running against him for president. He didn't do that, right? It's when she started criticizing him, he now changes his story. This is what Trump always does. But the story he changes it to is ridiculous. It's, really stupid that he would say that he would put somebody in as an ambassador to the UN to get them out of a state so someone else can win governorship. That is a really stupid thing to say. And it's a lie on top of it, right? It's a lie because now he's running against her and she's the number one challenger to his candidacy. And this is everything you need to know about Trump being a defunct leader and a bad person. You should never vote for this guy, right? It's funny because it's so stupid, right?
honestly, she was not a good negotiator. She was not a good negotiator. Now she likes to talk about when I negotiated with China.
There's some Fishboy moment there.
When I negotiated with
He's like, it's all Fishboy right here.
But when I negotiated
This is all.
with China, I negotiated with China. I did all of it. We got in hundreds of billions of dollars, and I did it. And she has.
He did. I did all those things. I did. She didn't do anything. I did it. Me. I did it. I'm the guy who could save the country from and we got to take it back to the country, and I'm going to be the guy, even though I sucked before as president, and I did Operation Warp Speed, and I suck as a person, and I failed as president. I lied to you, and I turned on you, and I, represented everything that is wrong with the leader, but now you got to put me back in there again because I did it. Nikki Haley didn't do it.
She has a hit on Social Security. She wants to raise the age very substantially. You don't need that. We don't want to do that. And we have that liquid gold. We don't have to do that to our seniors. You earned it. You're right. Who said that? That's a good point.
That's a good point. This person said, we earned it.
You earned it. You did earn it. And you don't need that. And the same thing with Medicare. They want to obliterate it. We're not going to do that. So I say this. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. She sucks. I'm great.
Sure, we win by big margins. The bigger the margin, the bigger the mandate that we have, the stronger we're going to be. And I mean strong, not just for the next state, because the next state is Nevada. And we're leading by 90 points.
90? We're leading by 90? 90 points?
So,
woo! Why are you guys cheering what he just said? He just told you something was obvious lie. It's something somebody changes the story because, hey, look, she's making fun of me now. Well, I didn't even like her anyway. I gave her a position in my administration only because I wanted something to help in South Carolina from a friend, and I just stuck her in this stupid position, this no power position of ambassador to the UN.
I mean, unless you had a catastrophic event, I think that's a
Like, I don't know, prison time.
tip. And then we go to South Carolina, we're leading by a lot. And then we're leading by everything, by everywhere you go. But I'm talking about November. We have to win. This sends the word to the other side. They're very destructive.
Yeah, okay. Send the word. And so what I'm talking about here in terms of leadership is somebody who takes more than they give or gives more than they take or just gives, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what you have in relationships. And all relationships should be give and take. But when you're talking about a spiritual leader, and really any kind of a good leader, the person gives of themselves, right? And you have to have something to give. And so many people are bankrupt and dead inside and all these fake gurus, and they're thinking about what they're going to receive from doing the work. And once you do that, you're screwed. You can't be a spiritual person. It's a service position. And they'll say they're serving, but they're not, right? You look at the breakdown of the relationship, you look at the financials, you look at the energy, and they're taking more than they give, right? They're feeding off the energy and the finances and the, all of it, the goodwill of their followers. And it's parasitic. And so in my personal situation, I have a lot of love in my heart, like from the Sajmark system. I mean, it's exclusively because of that. Whatever was there in the beginning, whatever kind of heart I have, it wasn't love. I didn't have vast amount of love to give before doing the Sajmark system, right? And this has grown over the years. Like I'm just receiving divine love all the time. I meditate and just the connections here doing these videos. I mean, I received, I guess what do you call that? A commission, right? In the Sajmark system where the preceptors give sittings, and I experienced this, the transmission flows through you. You're a conduit, right? You're an open vessel. And this woman claiming to be a conduit, people, whatever. This is a common New Age term, but, are you really a conduit, right? And in the Sajmark system as a preceptor, Charji said even the best preceptor still retains 20% of the transmission when they give a sitting, right? And so you give 5 sittings and you get 100% of the transmission. You give 10 sittings, you've taken, you've taken double what the other people are getting, right? Which is just, it's hard to even, it's God's love and it's infinite, so even to categorize it as that. But you receive, right? And, energy passes through me when I make these videos. Oftentimes I'll be feeling, not great. I'll have a headache or whatever it is. I won't be physically feeling up to it, low energy. And I start making the videos and I perk right up because there's, divinity. I'm in some sort of partnership here with God and the energy flows through me. And so I have that to give, right? I have that to, and I don't want to say to give like it's mine because it's not, right? It's God's love is never yours, right? Love is never something to be given, right? Something that, passes through you. But you need willing hearts and people to receive it. And I experienced this personally. Of course, I cover this on a daily basis. People are afraid of God. They're afraid of the divinity within them. They don't believe they deserve to receive God's love. Whatever is going on with them, people aren't good receivers of love. And when they get love and they have somebody that loves them, more often than not, they turn on that person, especially if the person loves them unconditionally. Because they view themselves as, most people have huge self-esteem issues, and especially people who aren't horrible, narcissistic people who have, layers of narcissism that talk about how great they are. And people who can't penetrate those external survival instincts that they have to build themselves up because deep down they know they're a piece of crap. People with personality disorders. And many of those people become leaders and, they have false charisma like Trump. Like Trump deep down knows he's a piece of crap, right? Like he knows it, but he can't deal with that. So he has these coverings of, this narcissism that's there, but it's not the real person that's there, and he's self-destructive. They're all self-destructive. You see it because deep down they hate themselves and they think they're horrible people. And most people think that, right? And most people like hate themselves on some level. And they're, guilt and shame, and this comes from past lives, and most people have real bad self-esteem and can't accept the negative tendencies that they have. They can't be honest to themselves about these things. They can't be honest about their shortcomings, and, it crushes them, right? They have to build themselves up with, self-talk, positive self-talk and things that, is just preventing them from seeing the part of them that they are ashamed of and they don't want anybody else to see. So they put on all these coverings, the things I was talking about earlier. People taking hundreds of photos so they can post on Instagram and Facebook and try to sell their family and sell themselves as being something other than what they really are. People who suck, who, hate each other and can't get along, or, they're miserable people, but they're glossing this stuff over and giving it a shimmer and an image and a brand that doesn't exist, right? That's what social media is all about. And over the years, in doing this YouTube channel, and then with Dodgy collapsing, and then there needing to be a stopgap, and doing my best to help to retain the beauty of the Sagemark system, and a system that is, profoundly efficient. But, even that, is a perfect system in many ways to connect people to God. But you can't connect people to God if people are running away and fighting God and fighting off all of it, right? Their egos are pushing this away, and they don't feel like they deserve it. It's a flawed group of people. At least now, maybe in future lives it'll wear away, and that's the hope of the system. Playing the long game, that after their soul gets connected to the transmission that's given this divine energy, the Pranhuiti, the utilization of the divine force for the transformation of man, right? And so that this energy's there. People run away from it. People run away from love, right? I saw this when I got divorced and I was single for a little bit. And, I saw that, although women say that they want love, I had the capacity to be really loving, right? Based in the work that had, been done to me, and the work I put in the Sagemark system, but also how I survived a really dysfunctional marriage, and, was able to be grateful and just put away my negative tendencies and my tendencies to, lash out or to, to criticize or do whatever in a relationship, and just be loving, right? Which is what women claim that they want, and most women dream of that, but really deep down they don't want that, right? That's the whole idea of them going for the bad boy, going for somebody who's, they have to change or whatever, right? Somebody who, the nice guy that will love them or whatever it is, and treat them right, treat them the way they say they want to be treated. They don't want that guy, right? That's just a common occurrence. It's for men as well, but men are too stupid to really, think about things like this. They're not relationship oriented. They want, certain specific things, often physical or sexual in a relationship, and don't think about the kind of woman that they want, right? But women have a specific, criteria, and the way that they talk about it, and being loved and loving, and being in a loving relationship is a big centerpiece. And I realized that was just BS, that it's just what they say, but it's not what they really want, right? That, women who are given that, that kind of love will run away from it. And the ones that can be loved are in loving relationships. They just find a husband and that's it, right? The husband's happy because they got a great wife, someone who, who can be loved, is able to love others, right? Someone who's, a functional person. But most people have such horrible self-esteem, women, of course, because of the physical, aspect of it, and not believing they measure up physically, and, because everything's such superficial appearance-based things, and then all the rest of it. And they put all their energy into creating a profile and a package and something external, and they don't build anything within themselves because they're putting all their energy into, some artificial creation outside, something superficial in terms of their physical beauty and style and all this stuff, right? And they don't develop a heart and all these capacity to really be loved, right? Deep down, they don't feel good about themselves, and nobody does. And if you think about that whole thing I was saying about the genetic fusing of the second chromosome in human beings, I talked about in my last video. And all the information that's out there that we are some sort of a slave, created as a slave or whatever it is. The true origin of our species is not being told to us. We don't know where we've come from. We can try to, put the pieces together, but when you don't know what you were created for or why you were created as a species, and the answer is not a good one, which is more than likely the case. And you can see it based on how we are, right? This is what we've done with our society, with our culture, with ourselves. I mean, this is what we've collectively and individually created, the lives that we have. And, some people are great, some people are saintly, but, those people are humble, and you have to be humble to, so there's no sense of thinking themselves as great because the great people are humble, right? And so when you look at all of that, of course people should feel bad about themselves. This is what we've created. This is what we've created in our own lives. This is the ego-based, selfish, competitive, petty, psychologically aberrant, world that we've created inside ourselves and then, collectively together externally in this really bad system, this demonic system. And so why should anybody feel good about themselves, right? And so why would anybody think they deserve love? This idea of loving oneself is stupid and, it can't happen. Love isn't something that you can give to yourself. I mean, that again falls in the category of narcissism. Love is something that passes through you, and you just have to accept your limitations and, you suck because the system sucks and you're in a sucky situation. You have to, minimize your suckiness and do your best to participate in making this into a better place, right? And so when this, situation happened with Dodgy, it became obvious that Dodgy was a complete failure and, a fraud. And I wanted to help, I was, not wanted, I was led to preserve the system as best I could and, did this work in terms of the Gratefullness meditation channel and all these things. And then some few people want to call me master, want to look at me as the spiritual leader of the thing and all this stuff. And I was like, well, for one, that's not true because I haven't reached that level. And two, I'm not willing, right? Like, why would I accept you as my disciple? Like, it's kind of a bad deal for me, right? And I've seen how it plays out. And first of all, the fact that I don't have the abilities, I mean, latent abilities, sure. Undeveloped abilities, potential, yeah, I have all that. I could step into that role and eventually God would, do the work necessary for me to fulfill that role, over time, maybe even lifetimes, or, who knows how long it would take. I don't know. But the potential is there in all of us, and certainly I have, some of the foundational pieces to perform that role. But why would I be willing to do that? Wouldn't I? Well, all I've seen in the Stajmark system, even a guy who was given everything in terms of all the spiritual work done on Dodgy, Kamlish, the now president, and his failure, his, selfish and, immature and, just dumb. The R word, the stuff that he's done here is just really inconceivable. And he had it all. Like, he was given all these things. And he was around greatness and, he was around masterly, a master, being masterful. And he couldn't do it, right? And, it's sad and it's just, everything that I've learned to expect from human beings, right? And I see it in the, and this happened yesterday as well. I have people who write and say, you have the best channel on YouTube. People say that I've changed their lives, all these things. I have comments like this from people, messages people send me, personal messages, and all the ways I help them transform, right? I've helped them on their journey. And my channel is struggling, and I'm not a people person. I don't pander. I'm not, marketing. I'm not a networking person. And so, my channel has to grow despite me, despite my limitations. And the Gratefulness meditation has to grow despite my, personality and all these limitations I have. And so there has to be other people that fill that gap, who have to step in and do what I can't do for myself and my channel. Like, I can't make it happen. I've run ads, it's not, it's less, I'm paying more than $1 a subscriber, and it should be far less, right? YouTube isn't going to do it for me anymore. And to keep this channel going, I need people, something external to me to help the thing grow, right? And really talking about all the time, even that I'm not really willing to do. once in a while I mention it here. And this is like the end of a video that, I don't know how many people are actually going to get to it. But there are people who see that there's something special about my YouTube channel, what I present here. People who really get it, right? Who can see something that, lots of other people can't see. The majority of people can't. And it means something to them, and it's helped them. And, maybe they do the membership, which is great, receiving some money. I mean, without the membership program, my channel would be dead right now. Like, I have to receive money or I couldn't, keep on going. YouTube's ads isn't making, this wouldn't be a job for me that I could do. I wouldn't be making enough money without the membership. That's probably at least a third of the money I'm making at this point, right? And that's great. I'm grateful for that, in terms of the channel, in terms of this job and these things. That's keeping it going. But in terms of helping get the word out, almost nobody does that. I have all these people, some people who have benefited extraordinarily from this channel. And we'll be friends on Facebook or Instagram. And every once in a while, someone will write me something or I'll recognize the person as being somebody who says that they love the channel. And I'll look at their Instagram feed. I'll look at their Facebook feed. More often not, it's the Facebook feed. And they are posting other, truther videos and other things and nothing from me, right? Nothing. I can understand if people don't post truther stuff, right? And again, this isn't me being mad or bitter or any of these things. It's me being realistic about the kind of people, that make up the audience base and make up humanity, right? That, I can give as much as I can give, but there's going to be limited return, right? It's going to be a one-sided, giver and taker relationship, like Babaji said, right? What I'm doing for you is my business. What you're doing for me, what you're not doing for me is your business, right? And that's your responsibility. Your responsibility is to work on yourselves, in terms of the Sajmark process, and make, the generous gift that you've been given, make yourself worthy of it, right? Make yourself deserving of it. You didn't deserve what you deserve it when you got it, but, as you worked on yourself and you can become a contributor. You're just not, parasitic and just taking. You're giving something back, right? And there's people who say they've benefited and, all these things. And they do post things on truther things, other truther things, other spiritual things, but nothing, like they don't post gracefulness things. They're not there doing the work I need and the channel needs to continue on, right? And so why would I give more? I give what I give, right? It's a constant state of giving here. People who can receive it. Lots of people don't see it as a gift, and that's fine. They're not benefiting, they see it as something else. They see it as, an attack on their belief system or whatever, right? The immature people, the people who don't have the ability for abstract thought, the people who can't change, the people who can't, see the benefits, can't feel the energy, whatever. That's how they're going to perceive the channel. But those of you that do, right, like, what are you doing to give back? And it's not for me to, you're not doing it for me. And you don't have to write a comment saying, no, I post your stuff all the time. And, I'm not looking for that. Like, that's great. But, that's, that's not a good thing to say. You don't need to say something like that. I don't need to hear that. Like, you have to, what do you get receiving from me and this channel, and what can you do to help along with it, right? And, a big part of that would help other people find the channel. The thing has to grow or it's going to die. And if you want to see it, continue, then you have to do something, right? If you're taking something from it, this is what you give back. You help, other people find out about it, right? And find some way to, put time and energy and, only work that you suffer for, right? The best work is the work that you sacrifice something for, right? Like, is it such a hardship to post a link on like social media? People do it all the time. I'm saying this because, I've seen it, and this is my perception. I'm being honest about where I am, and this precludes me from being, a true master or guru in this sense, because my commitment is limited, right? Whatever I do here as a teacher, or whatever I do as a person who gives to you, or whatever you're, benefiting from somebody who's older, who's passing on their wisdom or their energy or whatever it is, it's limited. People want more from me and want more of a relationship, but why would I sign up for that, right? And there's one problem with the Sajmark system. I've always said it's the people. And, there was this tendency for the guru, the master of the system, Babaji or Charji, to do all the work, right? And, there was no commitment from other people. And that's why I've set up the gratefulness meditation and all these things for you to do it, for you to have the responsibility and the gift of, participating and contributing and feeling good about, holding up your end of the bargain. Like, what can you do? What do you have to offer? How can you participate? How can you push things forward in a way? Because if you don't do that, if people don't do that, and that's what needs to happen, and if it won't happen now, then it's going to happen in some generations, right? Some future generation. Like I said, the one of the beauties of the Stajmark system is that the transmission that's given when people are introduced to the system, once a person's soul gets a taste of it, their future lives will be molded in a way where they can move forward with this opportunity. And so that's where it's a long game, where it might take people several lives. So, that's one of the other aspects of it, and it's available now on Gratefullness, where people can get introduced to the system. There's a playlist where people can be introduced to the system. And they may, take those sittings, they may meditate for a month or two, and then give it up and not come back, this life, but in a future life they will. And so, that's part of it, like where people are, in a situation where they're incapable of doing or having a spiritual journey in this life, but at least they can, set themselves up for the future. And that's something else I think about, personally. I might not be, the ideal spiritual practitioner, and I might have my shortcomings, but as long as I put in some work, I might not be all in, right? I'm not all in, at least in terms of, I'm not all in, right? Like, this is the thing that's most important to me. It's the goal of my life. And, I put a lot of effort into it, and I was all in the beginning. And I guess I'm even more all in now in different ways, but still, there's issues that aren't, that aren't necessarily the best character qualities and things that I do, and, maybe usage of my time or whatever. But at least I'm setting myself up for, a better future life, right? It's a path forward. And, people make the mistake of, realizing they're not up to it and they're not fully committed and they quit. And it's like, well, be partially committed and just, continue the momentum you've created into your next life. And in that life, you'll hope to do better, right? Just, don't quit because you're not going to, be the Michael Jordan of spirituality. Just, be a role player or, be a fan at least. Just, just keep the energy going, right? It's a shit show down here, and it's a difficult time, and do your best to continue, right? Do your best. I mean, that's that's part of it, and I accept that from people and whatever. Like, it isn't, people don't owe me something because I work for God. Like, I have to look at it that way. But if you are benefiting and you're not giving back, well, that's not, that's a problem for you, right? That's a, you're not doing all you could do, right? You're not, you want more from me, you want more from God, you want more from whatever, but what are you going to do? How are you going to help out? Like, what are you going to do? And part of it is motivation. Like, for me to be motivated, I would have to see a higher level commitment, right? I'll match the commitment, right? The problem in the past for the system in Saj Marg is that the master was all in and the people didn't, give back in that way. And, I would hope that everyone got an experience of that, but we see how that's worked out with the way the mission is, and the way the organization is basically folded. And, all these people were given and given. Sometimes some of these people knew Babaji, and they had 40 years of receiving and just being, propped up and given, all the spiritual love and gifts that they could hold. And yet they, completely just failed. And those of you who listen to my Journey series know what I'm talking about. And so, this is something for people to think about, right? It's my observation, but it's not my problem. Like, I can't do anything about it. I talk about it here occasionally, but, deaf ears, right? It's not my problem, it's your problem. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm getting tired. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.